Creating a hybrid training program can be one of the most confusing things for the everyday person. So if you're an intermediate lifter, maybe even an advanced lifter, you're just somebody who wants to use a hybrid approach. You want to get stronger, you want to get bigger and build muscle, and you want to be able to have endurance. You want to run, you want to be athletic, you want to be conditioned. I want to show you exactly what to do inside of your program so that you can develop the strength, the size, the endurance without being confused, without overcomplicating it, without getting injured, or without getting sucked into the gym for endless hours every single week. Okay, so first we have to determine what kind of training split are we going to do. Most people are going to be able to train 3 or 4 days a week. If you want serious results, if you want to follow something like a hybrid program that actually does build muscle, help you get stronger, and produce better results from an endurance perspective on your runs, you got to lift 4 days a week. So we're going to go with an upper lower split. We're going to have different focuses on each day. So although there are 2 upper body days, we are going to focus on a different primary lift. We are also going to shift the intensity, so the rep range, intensity being the load on the bar. So more absolute strength on one day and more hypertrophy on one day, or we can undulate it throughout the session. I'm going to explain both variations. I find most people like to undulate it throughout the session, which just means we lift heavy at the beginning of the session and we slowly increase the rep count while decreasing the load throughout the workout, which is going to be helpful for fatigue management, but also allows you to do a little bit of strength and a little bit of hypertrophy, muscle gain programming in each day. And then we're going to separate the running and the cardio completely from the lifting. And I'm going to explain why when we get to that part. Okay, so starting with the upper body, the first upper body session, this is going to be day 1. We're going to want to set up this program with a specific exercise sequencing, not only because we are approaching this from a hybrid focus, meaning we want to accomplish multiple things at once, because that's what hybrid training does. It helps you get bigger, stronger, and endure more running, aerobic capacity. But also because this is a good way to prevent injuries. It's a good way to just perform and make sure your joints are healthy while building strength and getting bigger. So the first thing we're going to do is activation. So on an upper body day, this might be something like a face pull, a band pull apart, over and backs, lat pull downs, anything to fire the posterior chain. So that's going to be the back side of our body that is going to support our scapula in the movement we are about to do. So on day 1, it's going to be Monday. We're going to put bench as the main lift since Monday is chest day internationally. And for that reason, we are going to go with face pulls first. So we're going to start with face pulls on our upper body day. I'm not going to put any sets. I'm just going to put the reps. So these are going to be for 15 to 20 reps. This is to get a really good pump. And what we're doing here is creating external rotation on our scapula. It's going to give us more range of motion, more mobility in that upper back. It's also going to fire our traps, our lats, our traps, our rear delts, and the musculature around the scapula that actually supports it. So from there, what we want to actually do is go into a primer movement. So we've done the activation. We fired the muscles that support the upper back, the scapula. Now we're going to go into an explosive movement that mimics the actual lift we're going to do. And this is going to be a more in-depth breakdown for this first day, but just know that we do this on every single day, depending on what our focus is. So we're always going to do an activation, a primer, and then get into the compound. So we have 15 to 20 reps for, let's say, at least 2, upwards of 4 sets of the face pull. Then we're going to do let's do a bent throw. We're just going to do 3 to 5 reps. You can do an explosive push-up here. You can do an explosive chest throw like I have listed. You can do an explosive bench press. The point is we're doing a horizontal push in an explosive pattern, and we're doing it with ideally a light weight. So this ball, we might be able to bench 300 pounds, but you're still using an 8 to 10 pound ball because you want to be able to be explosive with it. And this fires the nervous system. It helps you recruit more motor units and muscle fibers, fast twitch muscle fibers, before going into the bench press, which is going to be our main lift. And that's going to support a better performance and less likelihood of injury during that bench press. So when going into this compound lift of the day, being a bench press, I'm actually going to suggest we superset this. And superset just meaning that we go from one exercise to the next. So we're going to start with a bench press, then we're going to move into another exercise that is an antagonist. So an antagonist is just the opposite resistance and movement, but in the same pattern, meaning if I do a bench press, I am doing a horizontal row. It is a push and a pull. And the reason we do this is because there's actually research to show an improvement in performance of the compound lift when we superset it with an opposing muscle group but with the same movement plane or pattern. Again, push-pull is one of the prime examples of this. So we're gonna go with a barbell bench press and a T-bar row. And we're gonna do both of these for anywhere between 4 to 8 reps. So normally we would look at this and say, hey, like, what is our primary objective of movement? That's going to determine the intensity. Because it is a compound lift and we are trying to lift heavier and we're trying to build muscle, we do want to have a lower rep range. I wouldn't go over 8 reps here, but I don't want to go below 4 because we want to prevent injury. And just remember that if you are running a lot to improve your endurance, if you are lifting heavy to improve your strength, and you're also lifting with a lot of volume to try to build muscle, you have a lot of things going on here that could cause overuse injuries or a dramatic amount of fatigue that can lead to joint issues. So we want to be careful with going too low of reps or too high of volume on anything. And so for that reason, I'm going to say anywhere between 4 to 8. So you could go 4 reps, 6 reps, 8 reps. You could also stay in that range and just focus on lifting as heavy as you can within that range on that given day. I'm also going to go with a T-bar row so that it's chest supported to avoid being in a bent over position, because the next session is going to be legs. And on top of that, we're running a lot. Right? So when we're running a lot, we might be in extension quite often. If we're doing a leg day the next day, we're also primarily going to be hinging or in extension, causing some lumbar spine, lower back tension. And the last thing I want to do is put you in a bent over position for a row while you have leg day the next day and potentially a run the next morning. From here, we're going to go into an accessory exercise. So for the accessory exercise, we're going to treat it exactly like the compound in the nature that we are going to do a superset, and we are going to do a push-pull. Instead of doing a horizontal push-pull, now we are going to do a vertical push-pull. The reason we're going to do this is because our compound was horizontal push-pull. And a push-pull superset, again, is an antagonist superset. That's gonna be really beneficial, and we wanna take advantage of that with the upper body because we can squeeze more volume in a shorter amount of time without harming our performance. When it comes to legs, we can't really do that. So let's take advantage of it here. And we're gonna do a vertical push-pull, not only because we just did a horizontal push-pull and we want a well-balanced program, but also because on our next upper body day, we're not gonna do a barbell bench press for our compound lift. We're going to do a barbell overhead press. So we're gonna have a heavy vertical press in the next session of upper body of this week. And therefore we want to have an accessory exercise, this being a dumbbell overhead press that is going to support the strength of that other day's compound lift, the barbell overhead press. So we're gonna go with a single arm dumbbell overhead press. And we're gonna do this for anywhere between 8 to 12 per side. To superset that, we're gonna go with a pull down. Again, vertical pull instead of a horizontal pull. You can do this in a single arm fashion or a bilateral, so 2 arm. I would suggest doing it in a single arm, a unilateral lat pull down if you struggle to activate your lats. There's a lot of good anecdotal and scientific research to show it's just the way your anatomy is. So your body's torso, it goes into lateral flexion and the lats help it do that. You can't do that if you're pulling from both sides, right? So if you're pulling from one side, you can actually finish that contraction by kind of doing an oblique crunch and side bending a little bit, and that's gonna fire your lats more. And for somebody who struggles to fire their lats, that's gonna be an amazing help. You could also do a dumbbell military press, so 2 arms instead of a single arm if you would like. I prefer to have at least 1, if not 2, unilateral exercises in every session, especially for the lower body, given you're gonna be a hybrid athlete here. We're trying to run a lot, but the single arm exercises are gonna be great for eliminating any imbalances from side to side. So now we have face pulls for 15 to 20. We have a bent over throw with a jam ball or some kind of wall ball. This is gonna be 15 to 20 reps to activate the upper back. This is gonna be 3 to 5 reps to be explosive, fire the nervous system in that horizontal pattern. Then we have a barbell bench press and a T-bar row as a push-pull, horizontal push-pull, superset, compound lift combo. Then we have a single arm or bilateral, so 2 arm dumbbell overhead press and a pull down for 8 to 12 reps. And these are going to be another superset going in the vertical pattern of push pull. This is our accessory exercise that's going to support the other day's compound lift. And that's a really big key. So on a leg day, if we do a squat, we might do a hip hinge or an RDL as the accessory exercise, because on the second leg day, we are going to do a deadlift. And that deadlift is going to be built up by practicing these smaller hip hinge exercises like a stiff leg RDL, a single leg RDL, staggered leg RDL. So we always kind of pair this in this way: compound on one day, compound on the other day, and after each compound is an accessory exercise that supports the opposite body part. So opposite half body, I would say, lower body, upper body, compound lift. After this, we're gonna go into really the ending of the program. And so now we have another superset. You could also do an EMOM here. I often like to do this as an EMOM, every minute on the minute, and it's still a superset. So let's say it's 8 minutes and it's every minute on the minute. You switch exercise. That's 4 rounds of each. And we're going to do a bicep curl variation, and we're going to do a tricep push down variation. This is, again, an antagonist superset. So as you can see, I'm using a lot of these in the upper body day because you can't really use these effectively in a lower body session. And this allows us to shrink the time that we're in the gym while still accomplishing all that volume and hitting all the muscle groups. So we're gonna go anywhere between 10 to 20 reps on these. If we do a palm up bicep curl on this day, then on the next session, we are going to do a neutral grip bicep curl. If we do a tricep push down in this day, on the next upper body day, we're going to do an overhead extension because we are trying to change the variations of joint angle and exercise selection on the next given day. Now, I'm gonna have to move some of this stuff. If we look at the second upper body day, what we know is that we're gonna do the exact same thing with slightly different variations. So we did a face pull. So let's do a pull apart. We did a bent throw. Let's do a slam. And so that is actually the opposite, but it's mimicking that overhead pattern and overhead mobility movement, but we're slamming the ball down. Then instead of a barbell a bench press, we're gonna go with an overhead press. Instead of a T-bar row, we're going to go with a pull down. So we can do a very similar pull down that we did as our accessory on day 1, or we could do a weighted chin up. We could do a single arm. We could do a wide grip, a close grip, just do a different variation of the same movement pattern as the last time. But on this occasion, we're gonna go heavier. So the pull down we did on day 1 upper body was 8 to 12 reps. So whatever weight allows you to accomplish that. The upper body day 2, we're doing a pull down for 4 to 6 reps, 4 to 8 reps. We're going heavier and trying to build strength. So again, throughout the session, we are practicing some good ranges of motion for movement quality. We are being explosive. We are practicing strength and low reps with heavy weight. We are practicing exercises that have higher volume for the purpose of hypertrophy and muscle growth. And then we're finishing with isolation exercises. So we're really going through each step of this, and we're just doing the opposites. And this makes it so easy to program. So again, bench press, overhead press on the second day. T-bar row on day 1, pull down on day 2. We had a single arm dumbbell overhead press on day 1. Now let's go dumbbell bench. And you could do this with multiple different variations. So we can go bilateral. So with 2 arms, we could do a floor press. We can do alternating, where we alternate and do one at a time. We can just do regular single arm. Either way, we are mimicking the same movement pattern with a different variation and a higher rep range. We did a pull down for an accessory. So now we'll do a cable row. And we did bicep curl and tricep push down. So again, maybe we go hammer curl because we did palms up, supinated on the day 1 upper body. And then we're gonna go overhead tricep extension for day 2 upper body, which is gonna put the tricep in a stretch position, which is great, but it's an opposite joint angle. We have joint flexion, we have joint at a neutral position, we have joint extension. And we can change the different variation of our joint angle to target different parts of the muscle. So as you can see here, it's a really, really simple way of looking at this. Upper body day 1, upper body day 2, we're just using opposites. And you're gonna do the exact same thing with legs. So let's say for legs, we have day 1, we're going to do a hamstring curl of some sort. Then on day 2, this is for activation, so we have a hamstring curl. Then we have a glute bridge. Then we have a, let's say box jump, because it is a explosive movement that mimics the squat pattern. Then we have a broad jump because it's an explosive movement that mimics the deadlift hip hinge. Then we have a barbell squat, on day 1. And on day 2 of legs, we might have a barbell deadlift or a trap bar deadlift. Then we have a RDL, a Romanian deadlift for the accessory exercise after a squat. And then we have a Bulgarian split squat or a goblet squat or a reverse lunge, some kind of quad dominant accessory exercise on day 2 legs. Ideally in that unilateral pattern on both of those, because that's going to promote a good quality of movement for your running, which is going to be a separate part of this entire program. And then from there, we can get into isolation exercises. And my recommendation, if we are trying to build muscle, is to just go for machines. Do a leg extension and a leg curl. If you're a female that wants to build glutes, do a hip abduction machine, a hip thrust machine, and you can mimic the same exact one on each day, or you can change it up. But there's nothing wrong with doing leg extensions and leg curls as a superset for 8 to 10 reps on day 1 and for 15 to 20 reps on day 2. Same exact exercise, different intensity, different ranges. So now we have a full upper lower split. We have a template for it. Activate, prime with the explosive, do a compound lift, then you have your accessory and you finish with your isolation. You mimic the exact same program for your second upper or lower body day with slightly different variations of exercises given the compound lift of that session. And then you do the same thing for lower. So we have 2 upper, 2 lower. I would spread them out evenly throughout the week. And now we just have to sprinkle in our running. And this is really simple. For the everyday person, I'm going to recommend that you do a 3-day-a-week program for running, because we don't want to overdo it and just cause joint issues or just a lot of extra fatigue to the body. So we're going to have run number 1, run number 2, and we're going to have run number 3. And on these, I would recommend doing these in the morning and you're lifting later in the evening, or do your lifting in the morning and you run in the evening. It's not the best idea to slap these on the end. If you're going for a hybrid program, you do want to separate them by at least 4 to 6 hours. This is what research shows to be the best way to program concurrent training. So training with opposing goals, running, endurance, strength, size, and separating them that way to avoid losing any muscle tissue and degrading any performance on either metrics, degrading performance in your endurance or degrading performance in the gym lifting. So really, really simple. Day 1 is going to be an easy run. Day 2 is going to be an interval. And day 3 is going to be a long run. And this is all relative to where you are at in your journey. So an easy run might be a mile for some. It might be 3 miles for some. I would suggest starting with 30 minutes and just seeing what your distance and your pace is, and go at an easy pace. Minute 1 should match minute 30, meaning you start at a pace and you can finish at that same pace. The intervals are going to be based on your goals and your experience, but we can do a tempo run here. We can do a pyramid style. You can even go run hill sprints if you wanted to, and they're more anaerobic than they are aerobic, but the point is you are running and you are doing an interval. I prefer some kind of pyramid scheme where we start with a slower pace and we slowly make that distance shorter and the intensity higher. So maybe we start with a mile jog to warm up, and then we go to a half-mile run for 2, then we go to a quarter-mile run for 2, then we're at 0.125, literally the smallest amount, an eighth, and we're really trying to sprint for that distance, and then we reverse that. So it is a lot of intervals and there's rest in between. And then the long run again is based on you. So if an easy run for you is 2 miles, the long run might be 4 miles. We're just kind of doubling that up, and we're really trying to hit a PR on this long run each week for distance or for time in that distance. So if we look at this in a big zoomed out picture, we're going to know exactly how to train the upper and lower body in a 4-day split while adding in 3 days a week of running. Now, there are some nuances with exercise selection and progressing these. So how do you progress your running week to week? How do you progress your lifting week to week? And we're going to save that for another video, because that is a whole other bigger picture when we're looking at this from a month-to-month basis. But if you follow this template and you just mimic exactly what I'm writing here with your own exercises in mind, you are going to be able to lift heavier. You're going to get stronger from that. You're going to be able to lift more. You're going to get bigger from that. And you're going to be able to implement running without causing any injuries or a downgraded performance in the gym. And you're going to have a lot of extra aerobic capacity, or you're going to build a lot of aerobic capacity and endurance from doing that. And you put all these together, and that is literally an intermediate hybrid training program. If you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you don't know how to order things, drop a comment below. I'm happy to help with any of this. And on the next video, like this one here, we will break down exactly how to progress each of these things week to week and month to month.